I was recently thinking deeply about procrastination and how you get there, what happens after it, and I ended up with this graph right here. You might see it well, you might not, but there's four stages to procrastination that I figured out. Like, I'm not even kidding. I sat down, like, even in my dreams, right? I was like sleeping, and I suddenly got like a eureka moment, and I just stood up, like, wrote down the graph real quick, and then I just went back to sleep. And in that moment of like genius, I'll call it, I figured out this graph essentially. So we all know that procrastination, how it happens, we don't know what ends up afterwards, but it's hard to put in words how it happens. And so I made this graph to hopefully help you. And honestly, knowing this graph right here changed my life for sure. Like, I now know that procrastination isn't a big deal, it's just a step in the process, for example. But let me start. So, the first stage is ignorance. This is the procrastination cycle. The first stage is ignorance. And so, in ignorance, right, the first stage, you don't really know that you should be doing something or you shouldn't be doing something. So, the most basic example I can give you is the little kid who eats candy because it tastes good. He doesn't know that it's bad. And the only reason that he doesn't eat more candy is because his parents won't let him. And honestly, that was where I was at for a long while. So I played video games. I jerked off, but I never felt good doing it looking back. I played video games, I ate junk food, and really I only like played stuff like video games because I didn't really know it was bad for me. Like it was just normalized, right? Everyone does it, and you might as well do it just to have a little bit of pleasure. But the moment that you actually learn that something is bad for you or something is good for you, you get out of ignorance and you can never go back in the cycle, by the way. So it's not like you learn that working out is good for you, but then all of a sudden you forget it. Like, that doesn't happen. Like, that's just a set piece of knowledge that you now know in your head. So you can't go back to ignorance once you get out of it. So, right, you learn the information, you learn what's bad for you, you learn what's good for you. Then you move on to the second stage, procrastination. And here is the point where you know something's good for you know something's bad for you, but either you do it or you don't do it, depending on if it's good or bad for you. And this is honestly the worst stage out of all of them by far. Actually, no, that's not true. This is the worst feeling stage by far because you know something's good for you, but you don't do it. Like, you feel that sense of desperation and almost annoyance in yourself that you want to do something. You know something's good for you, but you just don't do it. And honestly, even nowadays, sometimes I still go through that. Truthfully, I go through like, how I have like an impulse to watch some random video that's not in any way, shape, or form related to my goals at all, and yet I still have to like post myself back. And even sometimes I'm not able to control myself, and I'm just click the random YouTube video. Like, even now, I still go through this stage, and so procrastination is just a hard facet of life, unfortunately, where it's a necessary stage to reach the next stage, which I'm going to talk about, which is number three, action. Action is whenever you actually just start doing or stop doing the thing that you already know is good or bad for you. So this is the stage where after procrastination, you've been in anguish the whole time where you want to start doing something, and action is when you actually just start doing it consistently. Now, the thing is, if you could just start something, like you go from ignorance to action immediately, so you learn that working out is good for you and you just get consistent for the rest of your life, everyone would do it. But yet, little people reach the action stage. And so where did they go? Right? It's not like a 1, 2, 3, you'll just get eventually reach 3, right? Because if everyone eventually reached 3, everyone would be working out. Everyone would be eating healthily. Everyone would be like meditating, reading books. Like, everyone would be at that stage. So why aren't they? And the reason for that is that there's a secret fourth stage which branches off of procrastination, and that is quitting. So quitting is whenever you know something's good for you. So you know working out is good for you, but you decide in yourself that you're not going to do it. So you say to yourself, this is all excuses, by the way, where I don't want to do it because I'm going to feel tired. I don't want to do it because I don't want to feel sore. I don't want to do it because people are going to think I'm gay or something. Like, that stage where you imagine in your head that you decide to quit is the worst stage by far. So it's not the worst feeling stage because you kind of feel like, in the short term, you feel kind of good that you don't have to worry about it anymore. In the long term, you feel almost embarrassment and disappointment in yourself. And honestly, this is the worst stage, quitting. And honestly, I hope you never go through it. The only way you actually get to quitting is that you actually actively decide to ignore the information that you know. And so you go from procrastination, you feel bad, to just not feeling bad at all that you're not doing something. That is the worst stage. And so honestly, procrastination in this context of my graph, it isn't a bad thing. Procrastination is needed to actually start the action, right? So you see that action is like a how is it called? An output of procrastination. So procrastination is needed for you to eventually start action. So procrastination in and of itself isn't a bad thing. It's only a bad thing if you quit. And I actually have some adjectives to describe each phase. So you have, for ignorance, people say ignorance is bliss. So in ignorance, you don't know anything, you just do whatever feels good. That's bliss. Then whenever you reach procrastination, that's pain. Honestly, because you feel a deep sense of disappointment and annoyance. Because you just want to do something, but it's almost like your whole body and your brain is fighting against you. Action, and I have two adjectives for this one actually, is either winning or wisdom. So winning as in like you actually just start like working out, or wisdom in the sense that you no longer do something that's bad for you. So it has two different contexts, but either way, you took action, now you're better off, right? And the secret fourth stage, which isn't so secret, a lot of people go there, quitting, the adjective there is failure. Whenever you quit, that is the only way you can fail. Even if you have to procrastinate for a year, a genuinely year, and I honestly doubt that you'll go that long. If you procrastinate for a year, you still haven't failed. Honestly, if it takes you that long, good on you, you're still fighting that fight. If you quit, all of the effort is wasted. Truly, honestly, even if you procrastinate for a year and then you quit, why would you waste all that time? If you were gonna quit, you might as well not do anything at all. But the thing is, you know that it's good for you. You know that it's either good for you or it's bad for you. And so you don't want to quit, right? Deep down, you know that you don't want to live that life. You don't want to live the life where you're jerking off all the time, for example. You know that it's bad for you. And even if it takes you a year, honestly, I think it took, for me, honestly, I think NoFap took me a year to get on, like fully. And I'm at that stage where I didn't quit, and now I'm at action. It genuinely took me a year, but I pushed through that year of procrastination, of pain, to actually get to action, to where I'm not doing it at all anymore. And that's why procrastination is such a, it's a paradox almost. People hate procrastination, but procrastination isn't a bad thing in and of itself. As you see by this graph, it's not a bad thing. It's just a single step towards action, right? It's not a bad thing. The only bad thing that can come of it is if you quit. And I hope this graph helped you, man. It honestly, it put into perspective how I see procrastination, and it put it into not even just words, but into a picture of how procrastination works. And I hope this graph helped you, man. Honestly, never quit when you procrastinate. As long as you just keep going, eventually, even in a year, which I doubt you'll get to. It's a long period of time. You'll eventually reach action. The only way you can fail is if you quit. I hope this helped you. If you're interested in more, I offer coaching in the description.